James Parker's hands trembled as he read the text message that would shatter his carefully constructed world. I know about your wife's accident. It wasn't your fault, but your daughter deserves to know the truth. He nearly dropped his phone, heart hammering against his ribs as he glanced across the restaurant at 6-year-old Lily, happily coloring while they waited for his date, a date who was now 20 minutes late on Christmas Eve. The anonymous message threatened to expose the secret he'd kept for 3 years, that he'd been behind the wheel during the crash that took his wife's life, a truth he'd hidden even from his own child. The upscale restaurant buzzed with holiday cheer that felt like mockery now. James had spent weeks planning this evening, his first date since becoming a widower, leaving Lily with a babysitter before the sitter fell ill, forcing him to bring his daughter along. Now his date hadn't shown, and worse, someone knew his darkest secret. His phone buzzed again. I'll be sharing what I know unless. The message cut off, leaving him in terrifying suspense. James felt the walls closing in. How could he protect Lily from this truth? Who was threatening him? And on Christmas Eve of all nights? Daddy, is your friend coming? Lily asked, her innocent eyes peering up from her coloring book. The Christmas lights reflected in her gaze. Eyes so like her mother's that sometimes it physically hurt to look at them. James forced a smile, the weight of his deception crushing him. I don't think so, sweetheart, he managed, wondering how he would explain to his daughter that they'd been stood up on Christmas Eve, when a familiar voice cut through his spiral of panic. James? Lily? What a surprise. Victoria Winters, his boss at the architectural firm, stood beside their table in a stunning emerald dress that matched her eyes, her blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. James had always found her attractive, but had maintained strict professional boundaries with the woman who signed his paychecks. Are you waiting for someone? She asked, her gaze lingering on the empty third chair. If you're enjoying this story so far, give it a like. I'd love to know what you think is going to happen next. We were, but I don't think they're coming, James admitted, embarrassment coloring his cheeks. Victoria's expression shifted from surprise to something softer as she glanced at Lily, then back to James. Well, my dinner plans just fell through too, she said, her voice carrying a hint of vulnerability he'd never heard at the office. Would you two mind if I joined you instead? It seems we could all use some company tonight. Before James could respond, Lily piped up, are you Daddy's boss? The one he says is brilliant but scary? Victoria's laugh rang out, genuine and warm, as James wished the floor would swallow him whole. Brilliant but scary? I'll take that as a compliment, she said, sliding into the empty chair without waiting for James's permission. And yes, I am. But tonight, I'm just Victoria. Would you like to be my Christmas Eve dinner date, James? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with possibilities that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. His phone buzzed again in his pocket, another threatening message, no doubt, but for the first time that evening, James hesitated before checking it. The dinner progressed with surprising ease. Victoria charmed Lily completely, helping her with her Christmas coloring and asking thoughtful questions about her interests. James watched in amazement as his normally reserved boss revealed a playful, warm side he'd never glimpsed in their 3 years working together. You're good with her, James observed quietly when Lily excused herself to the restroom, accompanied by a server who'd offered to show her where it was. Victoria's smile faltered. I always wanted children, she admitted, tracing the rim of her wine glass. But my career came first, and then. She shrugged, leaving the sentence unfinished. You're doing an amazing job with her, James. Everyone at the firm sees how dedicated you are as a father. The compliment warmed him, but the weight of his secret pressed down again. I'm not the father she thinks I am, he said, the words escaping before he could stop them. Victoria's gaze sharpened. What do you mean? James hesitated, then pulled out his phone, showing her the threatening messages. Someone knows what really happened the night my wife died. I've never told anyone. Not even Lily, that I was driving the car. The revelation hung between them, a test of sorts. Would she recoil? Judge him? Report him? Instead, Victoria reached across the table and took his hand, her touch steady and warm. "We all have secrets, James," she said softly. "Some heavier than others. What secret is Victoria hiding? Comment below with your theories." When Lily returned, the adults quickly shifted to lighter conversation, but something had changed between them. A current of understanding, of shared vulnerability. As they finished their meal, James's phone remained mercifully silent, allowing him to relax into the unexpected pleasure of Victoria's company. "We should probably get going," James said reluctantly as the restaurant began to empty. "It's getting late, and tomorrow is Christmas." Victoria nodded, but hesitated before gathering her things. "I have a confession," she said, her voice dropping to ensure Lily, distracted by the dessert menu, wouldn't hear. "I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I saw you through the window and came in on purpose." James stared at her, processing this revelation. "Why?" "Because I've wanted to know you, the real you, not just my talented employee, for a long time," she admitted. "But I never knew how to cross that line." Before James could respond, his phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. The same number that had been sending the threatening texts. His heart raced as he excused himself to answer it in the restaurant's entryway. "Who is this?" he demanded, voice low and tense. "Someone who knows what you did," came the reply, the voice distorted. "Someone who wants justice for Claire." Claire, his wife's name sent a jolt through him. "What do you want from me?" "Meet me at the bridge where it happened. Midnight. Come alone, or everyone will know the truth." The line went dead, leaving James shaking. The bridge, the scene of the accident, on Christmas Eve, exactly 3 years after Claire's death. It couldn't be coincidence. He returned to the table, trying to mask his distress. "Everything okay?" Victoria asked, her intuition clearly picking up on his tension. "Just a work thing," he lied, avoiding her eyes. "We really should go." Outside, snow had begun to fall, transforming the city into a Christmas card scene. Lily twirled in delight, catching snowflakes on her tongue while James helped Victoria into her coat, his mind racing with the midnight ultimatum. "Where are you parked?" he asked, hoping to say a proper goodbye. "I walked, actually. My apartment is just a few blocks away." "We'll drive you," he offered automatically, though part of him knew extending their evening was dangerous with the clock ticking toward midnight. Victoria studied his face. "Are you sure you're all right? You seem frightened." James glanced at Lily, still playing in the snow, then back to Victoria. "I can't explain right now, but I'm in trouble. Real trouble." "Then let me help," she said without hesitation, her hand finding his in the darkness. "Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone. If you're invested in James and Victoria's story, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional journeys like this one." The drive to Victoria's apartment was quiet, with Lily dozing in the back seat. When they arrived, James expected a quick goodbye, but Victoria surprised him again. "Come up for a minute," she said. "I have Christmas gifts for both of you." "You do?" James asked, bewildered. Victoria's smile was enigmatic. "I've had them for weeks, hoping for the right moment." "Please." Against his better judgment, with the midnight deadline looming, James agreed. He carried the sleeping Lily up to Victoria's elegant apartment, laying her gently on the sofa while Victoria disappeared into another room. She returned with 2 beautifully wrapped packages. "This one's for Lily," she said, placing a small box on the coffee table. "And this is for you." James accepted the package, touched and confused by her thoughtfulness. "Victoria, I don't understand. Why would you have gifts for us?" "Open it," she urged softly. Inside was a framed photograph that made his breath catch, a candid shot of him and Lily at the company picnic last summer, both laughing, their faces alight with joy. It was a moment of pure happiness he hadn't even known was captured. "How did you get this?" he asked, emotion thickening his voice. "I took it," Victoria admitted. "I've been watching you for a long time, James." Not in a creepy way, she added quickly. But in a way that made me realize what I was missing in my life. Joy. Family. Connection. The confession hung between them, intimate and revealing. James looked from the photograph to Victoria's face, seeing vulnerability there that mirrored his own. "I should tell you something," he said, the words difficult to form. "The texts, the call, someone is threatening to expose what really happened the night Claire died. They want me to meet them at midnight." Victoria's expression grew serious. "And you're planning to go? Alone?" "I have to protect Lily." "If the truth comes out." "What is the truth, James?" Victoria asked gently. "What really happened that night?" The question he'd been dreading. James closed his eyes, the memories washing over him. "We were arguing. About something so stupid I can't even remember what. I was driving too fast, not paying attention. The road was icy." His voice broke. "The official report said Claire grabbed the wheel, causing the crash. But that's not what happened. I lost control. It was my fault. All my fault." He expected judgment, disgust, even fear. Instead, Victoria moved closer, her hand finding his. "And you've carried this alone for 3 years?" James nodded, unable to speak through the knot in his throat. "You can't meet this person alone," Victoria said firmly. "It could be dangerous. Let me come with you." "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Her eyes held his, unwavering. "We'll drop Lily at my sister's apartment, she lives in the building. Then we'll face this together. What will they find at the bridge? Who is threatening James? Share your predictions in the comments." The bridge was deserted when they arrived, snow falling more heavily now, muffling the world in white silence. James checked his watch, 11:55 p.m. 5 minutes until the meeting that could destroy everything. "You should wait in the car," he told Victoria, but she shook her head, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. "Not a chance." They stood together at the center of the bridge, the spot where the accident had occurred exactly 3 years ago. Below them, the river flowed black and silent, partially frozen at the edges. "Whoever it is, they're late," Victoria said after several minutes had passed. James checked his phone, midnight exactly, no new messages. "Maybe they're watching, making sure I came alone. Or maybe." Victoria's voice trailed off as headlights appeared at the far end of the bridge, approaching slowly. James tensed, instinctively moving in front of Victoria as the car stopped several yards away. The driver's door opened, and a figure emerged, a woman, her silhouette familiar in a way that made James's heart stutter. "Claire," he whispered, disbelieving. But as the figure stepped into the pool of light cast by a street lamp, he saw it wasn't his dead wife, but her sister, Elaine. She stopped short when she spotted Victoria. "I told you to come alone," Elaine said, her voice brittle with anger. "Elaine, what is this about?" James asked, though he already knew. "Why the threats? Why now?" 3 years, James. 3 years I've waited for you to tell the truth about what happened to my sister. To give her justice." Elaine's eyes gleamed with tears or rage or both. "And instead, you're out on Christmas Eve with another woman, while my sister lies cold in the ground." Victoria stepped forward. "Elaine, I'm Victoria Winters, James's." "I know who you are," Elaine cut her off. "The boss he's always talking about. The woman he's been falling for while pretending to mourn my sister. James flinched at the accusation. That's not fair, Elaine. I've mourned Claire every day. But you never told the truth. Elaine's voice rose, echoing across the empty bridge. You let everyone believe it was her fault. I know, James admitted, the weight of his guilt crushing him. I was a coward. I was afraid of losing Lily if the truth came out. And what about Claire? What about her memory? Her reputation? Elaine demanded. Do you know what it's like to hear people whisper that your sister caused her own death? That she endangered her husband? The pain in her voice cut through James like a blade. I'm sorry, he said, the words wholly inadequate. I've wanted to tell the truth so many times, but I was afraid. Well, I'm not afraid anymore, Elaine said, pulling out her phone. I've contacted a reporter. They're running the story tomorrow, Christmas Day. Everyone will know what really happened. This emotional confrontation is reaching its peak. Like and subscribe to see how James handles this life-changing moment. James felt the world tilting beneath him. Elaine, please. Think about Lily. I have thought about Lily. For 3 years, I've thought about how you're raising her on lies. Victoria stepped between them, her voice calm but firm. Elaine, I understand your pain. I truly do. But destroying James won't bring Claire back, and it will hurt Lily deeply. Stay out of this, Elaine snapped. You don't know anything about it. Actually, I do, Victoria said quietly. More than you might think. Something in her tone made both James and Elaine look at her with new attention. What do you mean? James asked. Victoria took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his with a mixture of determination and fear. I was there that night, James. On this bridge. The revelation hit him like a physical blow. What? My car was the first on the scene after your crash. I called 911. I pulled you from the wreckage. Victoria's voice trembled slightly. I held your hand while we waited for the ambulance, though you were barely conscious. You probably don't remember. James stared at her, fragments of memory surfacing, a gentle voice, a warm hand, the scent of vanilla and cinnamon. Details he'd attributed to hallucination or dreams. You never said anything, he whispered. All this time working together. How could I? Victoria asked. How do you tell someone, I watched your wife die? How do you say, I've been carrying the image of your broken body for years? Elaine had gone very still, her anger momentarily displaced by shock. You were there? You saw what happened? Victoria nodded, turning to face her. I saw everything, Elaine. Including what really caused the crash. James felt his heart stop. Victoria, what are you saying? It wasn't your fault, James, Victoria said softly. Not entirely. There was black ice on the bridge, invisible in the darkness. I nearly crashed myself just minutes before. And yes, you were arguing, driving too fast. But what the police report got wrong wasn't who grabbed the wheel, it was why. She turned to Elaine, her expression gentle but firm. Claire didn't cause the crash out of anger or recklessness. She grabbed the wheel because she saw a child who had wandered onto the bridge, a child neither of you mentioned in your statements, probably because you never saw him in the chaos. Claire was trying to save that child's life. The revelation hung in the snowy air between them, rewriting the narrative of that terrible night. James felt tears streaming down his face, hot against the cold. How do you know this? Elaine demanded, but her voice had lost its edge. Because I saw the child too, Victoria said. I got him safely off the bridge after your crash. He was unharmed, just terrified and confused. His parents had no idea he'd wandered off from their car that had stopped with engine trouble just beyond the bridge. James sank to his knees in the snow, overwhelmed. All this time, I thought. Victoria knelt beside him, her hand finding his. You've been punishing yourself for something that wasn't entirely your fault. Yes, you were arguing. Yes, you were driving too fast. But Claire died trying to save a life, James. She died a hero. Elaine's phone slipped from her fingers into the snow as she covered her face, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Why didn't you ever come forward? She asked Victoria through her tears. I gave my statement to the police, but they focused on the driver and passenger, Victoria explained. The child and his family were quickly taken from the scene. By the time I realized the official report had missed this crucial detail, months had passed. I tried to contact the investigators, but the case was closed. Elaine moved closer, her anger transformed into something more complex. So my sister died trying to save someone else? Yes, Victoria said simply. Claire made a split-second choice that night, a heroic one. James looked up at Victoria through his tears. Why didn't you tell me when we started working together? I didn't know who you were at first, she admitted. Parker is a common name. When I realized, I was going to request a transfer, but then I saw how dedicated you were to your work, to Lily. I couldn't bring myself to reopen that wound. The three of them stood in silence as snow continued to fall, each lost in their own thoughts about the woman they had loved in different ways. The reporter, James finally said, turning to Elaine. Will you call them off? Elaine wiped her tears, nodding slowly. Yes. But James, we need to tell Lily the truth someday. The real truth, that her mother died a hero. I will, he promised. When she's old enough to understand. If this emotional revelation touched your heart, please like and share this story with others who might need it. As Christmas Eve ticked over into Christmas Day, they made their way back to their cars. Elaine embraced James for the first time in 3 years, whispering, "I'm sorry," before driving away into the snowy night. James turned to Victoria, seeing her in an entirely new light. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, she assured him. Let's just get back to Lily. The drive to Victoria's building was quiet but comfortable, a new understanding between them. When they arrived at her sister's apartment to collect Lily, they found her still sleeping peacefully. She can stay the night, Victoria's sister offered. It's late, and she's settled. James hesitated, then nodded gratefully. Thank you. I'll pick her up in the morning. Outside in the hallway, Victoria turned to him. Would you like to come in for a cup of tea? Or do you need some time alone? James considered the question carefully. For 3 years, he'd been alone with his guilt and grief. Tonight, that burden had been lightened, not removed, but shared. Tea sounds perfect, he said. In Victoria's apartment, as Christmas lights twinkled and snow fell outside the windows, they talked until dawn, about Claire, about the accident, about the years since. About Lily. About the future. I've been stuck in that moment on the bridge for 3 years, James confessed as morning light began to filter through the curtains. Unable to move forward, unable to forgive myself. Victoria reached across the sofa, taking his hand. Maybe it's time to start living again. Claire would want that for you. For Lily. And for you? James asked, meeting her eyes. What do you want? Victoria's smile was gentle. I want to know the real James Parker. Not just my talented employee, not just the man I've watched from a distance. I want to see if what I've felt growing between us these past years could be something real. Even with all my baggage, he asked. We all have baggage, James, she said. The question is whether we carry it alone or help each other with the weight. As Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, James leaned forward and kissed Victoria softly, a kiss of gratitude, of possibility, of new beginnings. If this story of redemption and second chances moved you, please subscribe for more heartfelt stories that remind us it's never too late for a new beginning. Later that morning, they picked up Lily together. As they walked through the snow-covered streets toward the Christmas tree in the city center, Lily between them holding both their hands, James felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years: hope. "Daddy," Lily asked, looking up at him with her mother's eyes, "is Victoria your girlfriend now?" James glanced at Victoria, who smiled back at him with warmth that melted the last of the ice around his heart. "Would that be okay with you if she was?" he asked his daughter carefully. Lily considered this with the serious deliberation only a 6-year-old could muster. "Yes," she decided. "But only if she comes to Christmas dinner. And New Year's. And my birthday." Victoria laughed, the sound bright in the winter air. "I think that can be arranged." As they reached the Christmas tree, glittering with thousands of lights, James realized that the weight he'd carried for so long had lightened. Claire would always be part of him, part of Lily, but now he understood that honoring her memory didn't mean living in the past. It meant embracing the future she would have wanted for them. "Merry Christmas," he said softly, the words meant for both the women beside him and the one watching over them. Victoria squeezed his hand. "Merry Christmas, James." And for the first time in 3 years, it truly was. Thank you for joining James and Victoria on their emotional journey. If their story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need a reminder that second chances are possible, even when they seem impossible. What was your favorite moment? Let me know in the comments below.